And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Dmitry Kornyuhov. I'm your host. Joining me tonight, my incredible co-host, Yelena Tereshenkova. Hi, Elena.
Hey, everyone.
And our guest, Alexandra Duran, English-Spanish translator from Guatemala. Hi, Alexandra. Well, Translators on Air is the first live talk show for translators and interpreters where Joanna and I invite very interesting people from our profession, and we have friendly, nice conversations about all the topics that are related to our profession, from working with clients to sharing our journeys in this profession and sharing our experience on marketing and all kinds of different tips. So before we start our conversation with Alexandra today, I would like to make a few announcements and share some news. First of all, this is our second season. we are extremely excited. Our first season was recorded last February, and our last episode was recorded in the middle of summer. Our show used to be called Blabbing Translators. Now it has a different name. I'm going to explain why that had happened. So Blabbing Translators, the name was associated with the name of the platform that we used for recording our show. The platform was called blab.im, but unfortunately that platform has ceased to exist. So they closed it a couple of months ago, and we had to figure out a new way to host our show, and found this new platform, crowdcast.io, which we are using right now. So we figured, since we don't have our old platform, our name didn't make any sense. So we decided to do a little bit of rebranding. We invited our awesome viewers to share their suggestions for a new name. A lot of you guys shared your suggestions. We received dozens of suggestions from our viewers, and I really would like to thank you all for your contributions. We also had a poll on Twitter, and a lot of people have voted, and we choose a new name. Now we are Translators On Air. So this is going to be the new name on our show. You can use the hashtag Translators On Air if you want to follow us on Twitter or other social media. And we also have an exciting new website, translatorsonair.com. If you're watching this show for the first time, I suggest you check out our website. You'll find the recordings of our first season there and learn more information about our show. So since we are using this new platform called Crowdcast, this platform actually is not free. So we decided we invite a sponsor to sponsor our show and to help us cover the cost of running this great platform, so all of us could enjoy ourselves and have great conversations. So our new sponsor for the second season of Translators on Air is a company called SmartCat. You probably know a lot about this company. They have developed a free cat tool for translators. So if you want to check it out, there is a green button below this video that says free cat tool for translators. Just check out their website and see what they have to offer. All right, so I guess that's all for the announcements and all the news. Let's jump to our conversation with Alexandra. Alexandra, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a few things about yourself?
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Alexandra Duran. I'm from Guatemala, that's Central America. I have been a translator for 6 years now. I am a sworn translator and a professional translator. But I decided to become a full-time translator like 7 months ago. So yes, I said, now it's my time. So it's been a very interesting and challenging journey, but I am really, really having a great time being a full-time translator finally. Now I'm working with an agency, so kind of 100% of my load work comes from them, and they have clients. Well, all of their clients are hospitals or insurance companies that are in the US. So that's how I'm translating now for the US, and not so for companies here in Guatemala. So I think,
So do you have any experience in translation for companies or clients, probably direct clients or agencies, with whose target audience is based in Spanish-speaking countries like Mexico, Guatemala, or some South American countries?
Well, when I graduated and I started working as a translator, yes, I had all my clients were local, so I knew what was my audience. So I knew which type of Spanish or terminology I had to use. But now that the audience is all over the US, your audience can be people that come from Mexico, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, etc., etc. So I've worked, answering your question, I've worked with clients, with local clients. So, but this is a new experience that has been very challenging.
So was it a conscious decision, or did it just happen so because the agencies that you collaborate with work mostly for those clients?
Yes, I didn't had very much to do with that decision. The agency just happened to work with clients that are in the US.
So how does translating for Spanish speakers living in US different from translating for people living in Spanish-speaking countries like Guatemala, for example?
Yes, thank you. It's, well, the most obvious difference is that here in Guatemala, well, I know because I grew here, you know which words you use that sound natural, and you have only one word or two words, whatever, for each English term. And for Spanish-speaking countries, I mean, for Spanish-speaking audiences in the US, the difference is that a term you translate to people here in Guatemala, maybe it has a different meaning for somebody that comes from Mexico, and has a whole different meaning for somebody that comes from Colombia, etc. So you have to deal with that terminology differences. That, for example, yesterday I was translating something about birthing classes, and they were talking about baby bottles. So here in Guatemala, you say pacha, and in Mexico, they say mamila or biberon, and in South America, they say biberon. So you have to deal with what term should I use, what translation should I use. Fortunately, there are clients that give you glossaries for words that they know that their audience are going to be familiar with. So that's a blessing. But when you don't have a glossary, you have to be very creative and search in, chat groups with another translators and forums. And there's an engram in Google that it's great. So what I do is that I go and search the Spanish webpage of the client. Some of them, most of them, have a Spanish version of the website. So I kind of search what terminology or what translation they use for such and such word. But it's very different because, like I say, here in Guatemala, I know which word, and it doesn't mean anything else. But for US Spanish speakers, it tends to get very, very tricky.
But it's probably the same for Spanish speakers living in other countries. So you mentioned Mexico, that in Mexico they use different terms for the same word. So probably when someone it's just not directly connected with our topic exactly, but I just it's something that I haven't thought about, that actually when you're looking for a translator to translate your marketing materials, for example, into Spanish for the Mexican market, you should probably pick someone familiar with that culture and with that language variant. That's interesting.
Yes. I don't want to compare myself with an audiovisual translator, but it kind of you have an analogy there, because people that translate, I don't know, movies or for subtitling or dubbing, they have to deal with that neutral Spanish that you have to look for, because producers are not going to pay for Mexican Spanish and Colombian Spanish and Argentinian Spanish, because it's their costs increase. So when I think about myself, like dealing with that neutral Spanish that exists, but it's not real. You have to know that there are a lot of people that are going to read the document you are translating, and it has to feel natural for all of them. So
yeah.
Sometimes it's difficult. It's very difficult, but not impossible.
Yeah, it sounds like a challenge.
Yeah.
So when people are reading something in Spanish, they can definitely see that this is a neutral Spanish, or this is Spanish for Mexican, or this is Spanish for Guatemalan people, right?
Right. You have to deal with the fact that numbers, I don't know, statistics say that most of people living in the US are Mexican, but not all of them. So clients used to ask to use a lot of Mexican words that are pretty common. I mean, they're not difficult. I don't translate very technical things, but they have already known their market and their audience, so they know that mostly are Mexican. So you have to look for words that are mostly used in Mexico, for example.
So would you normally ask a client what kind of Spanish variant they would prefer for their target audience?
Well, as the agency deals with clients, I asked my project manager to tell me, but we all know, well, the instructions are clear from the beginning that we have to use neutral Spanish. That doesn't make any sense, but you know that you have to use whatever glossaries the client has, and as I say, I tend to look for the Spanish version of the websites. If I have any doubt with any term that I don't know which word to use, because there are a lot of variants of it, I look in we use Akato. Can I say it?
Sure.
So what I do is that I look in MQ for the ways that another colleagues have translated that term, to see what the client has accepted before. Because they don't tell you which variant they like. They just say Spanish, neutral Spanish. That's it. No.
So
I'm sorry. In fact, they say US Spanish.
Yeah. Great.
So they invented a new language.
Yes.
And translating from US English to US Spanish.
So they mostly request this neutral variant that is actually non-existent, and that many native speakers of, say, Mexican Spanish would perceive as not so natural sounding. right?
Yes, yes. And sometimes the client tells you, we are going to use this word, and that's it. It doesn't matter if, for me, it means a lot different thing.
Mm-hmm. So do they try to find, are there clients that try to pay attention to that and find some workarounds? Like, for example, they could hire one translator for this neutral Spanish, but then have several proofreaders for each target market. Is it something that you could do?
Well, I hope they do. I know that I know that there are clients that have their own in-house proofreaders to give that natural U.S. Spanish, I don't know, language to their documents, but not all of them. I know that some of them have their own reviewers, proofreaders, but not all of them have. They just trust that the thing that the agency and we, the translators, are sending, it's that it has that U.S. Spanish applied.
The reason I ask this question is because I mostly work with marketing translation, and earlier today I was talking to a client who wants to have his app description, which is basically a marketing material translated into several languages. And I actually asked him, thinking about our today's conversation, I asked him which kind of Spanish was one of the languages. And I asked him which kind of Spanish do they want to localize their app description into. And he said, well, I think Spanish, or just Spanish, something like that. So now I'm thinking about ways to help them make it sound more natural. And I think that having a proofreader, one translator for Spanish, but different proofreaders for different locales might be a good way, a good workaround.
Yes, it indeed is a very good idea that you tell your client, look, this in marketing, I mean, it's very important.
Because marketing is all. Yes, I told that was actually what I told him, because marketing is all about emotions, and you can't reach a person's emotions when with a stiff-sounding text or something like that. So
yes, and sometimes you have that I don't know. Okay, I went to Cuba in 2008, and I used the word. I don't know if there are Cuban in the room, but I use the word papaya. For me, it's a fruit. But for them, it's the part of a body that it's related to sex. So, yes. So if you use that papaya in marketing in Cuba, they are not going to buy you anything. So it's very important that if the client is going to localize something, they have to have their own proofreaders to to see that the text has not other connotations besides what they want. Yes.
So what are some of the other biggest challenges that you are facing as a translator when translated for Spanish speakers living in the US?
The readability level. I believe the readability level, because the client says, okay, this is document, maybe it's a lawsuit or something that, it's going to be very technical, but they ask you to have a readability level of a fourth grader, of a kid of 10 years old. So you say, okay, how do I explain this to a kid? So I know that I am talking to an adult that maybe their academic or the scholar level, it's not as high as most of us, but I tend to trust that that adult has an experience and has listened to words that maybe a kid hasn't. So that's a pretty much of a challenge, because you have to deal with not using very technical words for topics that are technical. So you have to lower the register or make it simpler as much as you can. Sometimes you just can't. But you try.
Yeah, I can imagine. Especially if it's related to prosecution or litigation, there is a lot of terminology in there, terminology which I do not understand at times. For example, I love watching shows about all the courtroom procedures and stuff like that. Like there is a great new show on HBO called The Night Of. I don't know if you guys seen it. It's a really good show. So there's a lot of terminology in there, legal terminology, which to me, it's really hard to understand because I do not deal with this on a daily basis. So when I hear it on screen, even though my level of my education is relatively high, I have a translation, a master's degree, but still, it's not enough for me to understand this complicated legal terminology, right? And I can only imagine what it's like to read a document when your educational background is much lower than regular people, right? So I think it's quite a challenge for you as a translator to render that properly.
That's probably another challenge, because when you are watching a TV series, your, I don't know, life or other important things in your life don't depend on you understanding the terminology.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, I can understand from the context, right?
Yeah, you can understand from the context, and over the time, you also have the time, I don't know, 6 or 7 or how many there might be seasons to to get the hang of it.
Yeah, I can also look it up.
Yeah.
Yes. So when you're dealing with, I don't know, medical documents, but not technical documents, the most documents that I translate are, I don't know, like alopecia or sports injury, for example, that there are clients that want to explain to Spanish speakers in the US what is alopecia or what's the consequences of having a sports injury. So although they are not that technical, you have to use, because you only have one chance to get your audience to get the message.
Have you ever found yourself in a situation when you translated a highly technical text and made it clear to someone with a lower level of education, and then the client came back to you and said that you translated something incorrectly and that the translation doesn't match the source file and things like that?
Not for now.
Great.
Yes. Well, the things that the client has said through the project manager or through the agency is that we need to low down the level. Although we are making a very, very good effort in achieving that readability level of a 4th grade, they are asking us to go down.
Yeah.
So sometimes what I do is that I place a note or a comment. Say, I am translating this, not following the source, because it is going to be very much clearer for the audience. Because sometimes I translate something and then the person that reviews that or makes the proofread of that changes it. but I am thinking about the audience, and maybe she or he is thinking about other things and changes it. So we really have to be very careful on the process to keep that level. But so far, we're good.
Great. I want to remind the people who are watching us that you can, guys, actually ask Alexandra questions. There's a big orange button saying ask a question or suggest a topic, and we'll be happy to answer your questions.
Yes, please.
So how does it feel to know that your work is making a huge difference in the life of many Spanish speakers living in the US?
It feels very, very good. Very, I don't know. I feel proud, if I can say that, but I feel very proud of the work we all translators do, because you're making sure that people has the information on their own language, and that's a human right. So I feel very, very good about it, because you know that, well, if I don't do it, someone else will, but I am doing it. So what I think every time I'm translating something medical, I really do think about that audience and that people that it's going to have finally information on their own language, although they are in the US. So that's not an obstacle. And that is why I became a translator, because I wanted to give people the opportunity to read something in their own language and to understand it and to have access to that information, because it's important. So I feel very, very, very good.
That's a moment when I miss the high fives we had on Blab.
Yes.
Yeah.
that was a great feature.
Translators build bridges and connect nations.
Yes.
And it feels good to be a translator and to make a difference in someone's life and help people understand what is hidden behind those words. So, yeah, I think it's a great feeling. And I congratulate you on doing such a great job and loving what you do. A lot of people do the job that they do kind of like mechanically, without putting any thought or consciousness into what they're doing. And you obviously have a lot of passion and pour all your heart into this. So I think it's great. I congratulate you, and so high five.
Yes, thank you.
I think that there are not so many people who do their work mechanically among the translators. I don't know, probably I'm lucky to communicate with the translators that are passionate about their job. But I meet a lot of people in our profession who are passionate about what they are doing and who really in love with their work, if I can say so.
Yeah, I mean, we even have a talk show for translators.
Right.
When people are not working translating, we're watching other people talking about translation, which is crazy. Only passionate people can do this.
Yeah, that's true.
I think, well, if you let me, I'm just going to say hi to Alejandra.
Sure.
I think
Yeah,
it's
sure.
Alejandra Carmanian. Hi, Ale. She says that's good to put emphasis on, Spanish-speaking people having the chance to get information on their own language. Yes. I believe we all agree to that.
For sure.
Yeah, and I guess we can say hi to other people watching us. Yes. Marvin, Miljana, Alejandro, Lazaro, Ellen, Oriel. Lots of people here today. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. If you have any questions for Alexandra or for us, if you want to know more about the work that she does just click that button and ask questions. So what tips can you give to someone who translates for Spanish speakers living in the US?
Oh, what tips? Okay. To read, well, first of all, to search the client's Spanish version of their website. For me, it has been very, very useful because you are dealing with lots of cultures, lots of audiences, although you are translated just for one. But you are dealing with that. So you need to see how the client has approached or has addressed their own audience to know which words you have to use. Another tip that it's very useful for me, it's using government pages that have English and Spanish. For example, the National Institutes of Health in the US, they have the NIH, the National Institutes of Health webpage, and they have the Spanish version of it, and it's an official translation. It's an official webpage. So it's very useful because you know how the federal government wants to, which words the federal government in the US uses in medical terminology. I'm talking about specifically medical terminology because that's what I do on a daily basis. So another page that it's very useful, it's Medline Plus. It has its English version, its Spanish version. So what you can do as a translator for Spanish speakers in the US is to have parallel texts. So that's what I do. I search for something in English and have it in Spanish in another tab. So I know how are they translating that. And it has been very, very helpful. Another thing, go and relate to groups that have Spanish speakers in them, of translators, of course. In Facebook, they have there are a lot of groups where sometimes translators have said, please help me. How do I translate? No, how do you say in Venezuela, Colombia, Chile, Argentina, this word? So the colleagues are very kind and they start to answer, oh, for me, it means this. For me, it means that. So it's very useful to watch how a word is, what the word represents in each country. I don't know, that's been for me.
So it's great. It's great to collaborate with your colleagues and to always ask for advice. And you know, a lot of translators are very friendly people who are always willing to help. So I guess we can share the links to those groups that you mentioned somewhere in show notes after we publish the recording of this show, so that more people who are interested, who are working in this language pair, could join those groups and have conversations with their colleagues. Kat is trying to get on camera.
Another thing, I'm sorry. Another tip or another thing that I use is prose. That's very useful too, because you have the experience of all other colleagues that have been through the same thing. So prose has been very useful too.
All right.
Do you think it's also my question, it's more of a thought, an idea. Do you think that do you think that going to the US and I don't know, talking to Spanish speakers living in the US would also be useful? probably, if there is such an opportunity.
Yes, I have been to the US. I was there in 2003 and then 2005. But it has its pros and cons, because people there tend to use English words and turn them into Frankenstein Spanish. Yes. For example, in Spanish, for making a word plural, you have to add most of the time es at the end. So, for example, in English, you have bill, and there Spanish speakers say biles. And you say, what? That's bill. But they create that Spanish that it's not neutral, it's not English, it's not Spanish.
It's called Spanglish.
Yes, Spanglish, but
Probably.
yes, that's a Spanglish. So it's a very good thing to go there and to talk to Spanish speakers. Of course, it is a great thing, because there you know that in which reality they live their daily lives. So you know that the streets, the names of the streets, or I don't know, the laws, because that's another thing, that the audience, it's immersed in the system that has its own laws that they do not have, or they have a different system of laws in their own countries. So you have to understand too the system they are in order to translate something that it's going to be they are going to recognize easily. But it's a very good idea it's always a very good idea to travel to the country where is your audience, whenever you have the chance, of course.
Where your audience where your audience is, and also where the source language you are translating from is spoken. And in this case, it's actually one and the same country, which is funny.
Yes. Yes, because the documents come from there and then go back. So it's interesting, and it's pretty weird sometimes.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us today, Alexandra, and for sharing your experience. I guess we have one question in the question box, which is not very related to our conversation, but I guess we can answer it, right?
I think so. I think it's actually a great idea that people can ask any questions they like, as long as they're related with translation, and we can just share our experience. I think it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, can you read the question, please?
Well, why do translators prefer paid CAT tools? Is it true? There are very good free CAT tools. Since I read this question, may I answer it first? I personally don't prefer paid CAT tools, and I'm mostly using free CAT tools, either provided by clients. When working with agency clients, they sometimes provide access to their own CAT tools, or to some cloud-based CAT tools that they are paying for. Actually, there's a lot of online CAT tools which I like to use, and actually our sponsor SmartCat offers one of them, so you can guys go and check it out.
Shameless self-plug.
Yeah. What about you? Do you prefer using paid CAT tools or free CAT tools?
Well, I really prefer free CAT tools. But I believe that paid CAT tools also have their own advantages, or I don't know, characteristics that they have. They only enable them if you pay for them, but mostly, or in general, a free CAT tool would do the job. They're very good cat tools, as SmartCat, that are very, very useful and very friendly to work with them.
That's what I find too.
Yeah, and if you ask me, I'd like to share my experience of using any software. Doesn't matter if it's a cat tool or anything else. When I'm using a piece of software, I normally look at three things. It's supposed to be user-friendly. It's supposed to have great functionality, which is very useful to me and to achieving my goals. And the customer support service have to be spectacular if I have any problems. So based on those three, I select the piece of software I would like to use. At the moment, I'm using MemoQ. I hope our friends at SmartCat are not mad at me, but this is something I've been using for many, many years, and it's really hard for me to move to something else because I have created my own translation memories, I have created my own glossaries, I have my own workflow, which I've been using for years. But when it comes to cat tools, I think I wouldn't say that a lot of people prefer paid over free. I think a lot of people actually are looking just at those three things that I mentioned. And sometimes paid cat tools, they win in terms of functionality because they have teams and hundreds of people developing that software, and they listen to their customers, and their customers pay them money. So there is a feedback loop between them, and they constantly improve it. While with free cat tools, it's a bit more difficult for them to compete with the paid versions because they don't have a solid revenue model. So their revenue models is different from what is normally is seen between big cat tools such as MemoQ or Chatters or any other cat tool providers. But yeah, I think I don't see there is a big difference between paid and free cat tools. There's a lot of both paid versions and free versions, and it's all up to you which like you would like to use. Just look at those three things: user experience, customer support, and functionality, and decide which one suits you best. And many of cat tools have, even paid versions have free trial versions, so you can try them and you can clearly see if it's not working out. You can always move on. You don't have to be stuck with something if you don't like, because right now I think there's a lot of development in the whole world. There are a lot of new companies coming to the market, and I think it's gonna grow even more in the future. And there will be little or no difference between cat tools from.
Yes, it's been also my experience that there is not a lot of difference, and the reason why I well, I wouldn't say don't like, but yeah, don't like them that much, the paid cat tools, is not because they're paid, but because some agencies insist on using a particular cat tool. And I think that, and it's, I've never heard or read a requirement on an agency website that you've got to use, I don't know, SmartCat, or you've got to use Omega T. It's usually either MemoQ or Trados. And since
because
yes,
but
the thing market, is that it's actually the translator who's doing the work, and it doesn't really matter what cat tool he or she is using. And so I don't think it's a very good idea. That's why I'm probably a little biased here.
But yeah, thank you so much for asking a question, because I hope this answers your question. Yes, we don't have.
Yes. If we don't have any other questions, is there anything else that you'd like to add, Alexandra, to what you have said today?
Well, no, I know that I can think of now. But just congratulating the whole the whole world of translators and you guys, because, well, for me, and I have said this, thank you, Alejandra. I have said this to everyone, to the whole world, that you have been an inspiration for me to talk more about our jobs and to make a show, or to give someone else the opportunity to talk about their lives and what they do. And I really believe, and I really enjoy talking with other colleagues and listening to them. So for me, this show, and in Spain, they have other show that it's called Tragora, Hangouts Tragora. And in Argentina, they have also a
Translators
radio.
On Air.
So for me, it's this interchanging ideas. It's like being in a congress or a seminar, but in your house.
Yeah, from the comfort of your home. Yeah.
Yes. So I just want to congratulate you guys, because your efforts and the time and the passion you have, it's very inspiring. And for me, it has been very inspiring. So congratulations, and let's keep doing the things we do that.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your experience. You got me thinking about some things that I haven't thought about previously. And I also learned something that will help me provide more value to my clients as well, although I'm not translating for Spanish speakers in the US. I hope everyone who has listened to it has found it as useful as I did. And I hope you'll join us for our next episodes of season 2. You can check out our website at translatorsOnAir.com, and please don't forget to check out the website of our sponsors, which is at smartcat.ai, smartcat.ai, or you can just press the green button below here. Yeah. Thanks everyone for watching us and for listening to us if you're listening to the recording. And I hope to see you, everyone, next time.
Yes. See you guys later.
Yeah. See you guys later.
Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.